Your government refused to supply weapons to Ukraine, and in the past you have criticized Western military aid to Ukraine, saying that this has prolonged the conflict. Would you say that the West, with its continuous military aid packages, is part of the problem in this war?
Let me tell you a short story. In 2022, it was spent 2 trillion $224 billion in weapons, in arms. If this money had been spent in education, fighting hunger, investment in social inclusion, certainly the world would be much better than with the war in Ukraine. So it's for us to use the good senses of the people, the common sense of people. If you have awareness before you go to war, if you have your senses, use all the conversation mechanisms or facilities that may exist. Have a meeting, 2 meetings, 3, 10 meetings, whatever. The only thing that you can't do is go to war. When the U.S. went to war against Iraq, I was talking with President Bush in those days on December the 10th of 2002. I was not president, but I was president-elect. And I told President Bush, President Bush, Iraq, they don't carry chemical weapons. The general director of the UN Agency for Chemical Weapons was a Brazilian ambassador. And he said, there's no chemical weapons in Iraq. And then the lie was told by the American government and by the Iraqi government that said they did carry those weapons. Iraq was lying because they wanted to sell a force that they didn't have. And the U.S. was stubborn and went to war with Iraq. Until today, the chemical weapons were not found in Iraq. The chemical weapon had led to the murder of Saddam Hussein. So you need a lot of wisdom from the human being. War is not of our interest, of the human beings. And then another severe thing that is happening are the blockades, the sanctions. For example, the blockade against Cuba is 60 years already. The embargo against Cuba and the embargo against Venezuela, the embargo against Iran. An embargo is a weapon that is worse than a bomb. Because at war, you have soldiers fighting soldiers, but in an embargo, you victimize children, women, kids that do not have nothing to do with the war. So we rulers, we need to change our behavior. I can't imagine that Cuba has a blockade, an embargo for 60 years long, and that people don't manage to survive well in the way they want to live. So I believe that the first opportunity I have with President Biden, I'm going to say to President Biden that it's necessary to stop, to penalize Cuba. Cuba is not a country that has terrorists. I've been going to Cuba for more than 30 years. I've never seen any action of the government to give incentives to the terrorists. You have to take out this charge against Cuba that it's a terrorist harboring country and get rid of the embargo to help them survive. There's no explanation. I didn't agree to the embargo when I was 50 years old. Today I have 77 years of age. And it's been for 27 years, I don't understand why the embargo continues against Cuba, because there's no mass weapon of destruction in Cuba. So it's necessary to find other ways to do politics in the world. The planet is becoming overcrowded, and soon we will be 9 billion people. And the raw material is the same. The geographic space is the same. And so we'll have to learn to live with peace. We're going to have to learn in harmony. Otherwise, we will destroy ourselves. And the human being, I should say, is the only animal on the planet Earth that do things to cause damage to themselves. And so We need a civilizatory process to reintroduce civilization so that humanity could live in peace, in harmony, and with tranquility. That's what we need. This is what I wish for the world. This is what I wish for my country. And this is what I wish for the people that participate in the multilateral institutions. The IMF has to help people. It cannot penalize people. The World Bank has to have people and not penalize people. The poor countries. Let me give you another example. The African continent has a debt of $800 billion. You can't pay back that debt. It's unpayable. So it's necessary first to find a way to transform this African debt in investments for infrastructure, where the countries could be lifted from poverty and grow and have the prospect of participating in the wealth of the world, having a share of the wealth of the world. It's not difficult. It's only for us to think a little bit with our heart and not only with reason.
E não só com a razão.